People are saying this is one of the best horror movies right now. Late Night with the Devil, starring David, how do you pronounce his last name?
Dastmalchian is how I believe it's pronounced.
Okay. Gonna sound odd considering I can't pronounce his last name, but he's one of my favorite actors out there. I love, like, when he's in some shit, he's great. Oh, man, if you hear his backstory, he was running with the devil back in the day. I don't know if you guys are familiar.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
He goes into his conversation with Trent about how they both like had to fight through drugs and all that shit.
Yeah.
They're demons they had to battle.
He has a background of heroin addiction and depression before breaking out. He's been clean, I think, for like 22 years now, so good for him. Absolutely brilliant. I couldn't take my eyes off of it, says Stephen King. A glorious spectacle of demonic mayhem getting talked about very, very favorably. And then on its opening weekend, it made $666,000, which is hilarious. I don't know if they like fudged the numbers just a little bit to add to the viral marketing of it.
Please stay tuned for a live television first as we attempt to commune with the devil.
So what is this movie? This is like, I guess, a found footage movie in a way, technically.
This is like the best found footage take we've had.
Yes.
Because it's high production, because it's television cameras.
Right.
Yeah.
Very, very creative film. In the beginning of this film, you get like this little like backstory, which kind of almost frames it as if it's part of a documentary about the events that we're about to see in this found footage. But yeah, we're watching a live television broadcast in 1977. David, he plays the talk show host. His name is Jack Delroy, and he's basically like a rival of Johnny Carson. The ratings start to dwindle, and unfortunately his wife passes away of lung cancer, which they explicitly tell you she was never a smoker. And after she dies, he comes back after like a brief little hiatus and he has a show on Halloween. And this is like his chance to resurrect the show and save the show and fix the ratings. And it's worth noting that before the show started to decline, he had signed a big deal with some like bigger like network or agency or whatever.
The first watch through, I didn't hate it, but I didn't like love it for sure. I just felt it was one of those like, oh man, this was like super hyped up and it wasn't as good as I thought. But after the second watch, I thought it was
better.
I thought it was amazing. Yeah.
Ooh,
I mean,
wow.
There was a lot of little things. Well, I watched it with C the first time just on, like the TV.
Yeah.
But watching it with like my headphones and close to the monitor, I was able to catch some stuff that I wasn't able to really catch just on the TV, which I'm sure these are things you probably catch if you're watching it like at a theater with really big speakers and
I don't know if you do, to be honest.
I mean, it is really subtle, like the audio cues and stuff throughout.
This is one of those movies where, like, I feel like you go back and watch it multiple times, you're going to notice more and more shit that you didn't the first time, which is cool. I like shit like that.
Surprisingly, yeah. Like, I don't really watch movies twice in a short amount of time like this, but it was good. I enjoyed it.
I like this movie. I thought it was good. I thought it was a really good character portrayal, like the way David played the character and everything, like, developed. I thought it was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I didn't think it was scary at all. We talk about this all the time. Like, it wasn't scary. But I will say, this movie did put an anxiety in me that I haven't really felt watching a movie since Hereditary. That movie is so anxiety-inducing, Hereditary. Not scary, but anxiety-inducing. I didn't feel it as strongly watching this, but this is one of the first times I've felt that again since watching Hereditary. Especially towards the end when, like, there's all this crazy imagery going on, and it's like, it really is making you feel crazy. To revive the show, he has this whole plan. On Halloween night, he invites on a psychic who can allegedly commune with the dead. And this guy does his typical, like, Jon Stewart psychic thing where he's like, oh, I'm hearing a name. I'm hearing a name in the crowd. He then freaks out and, like, spews this black liquid all over the place.
Exorcist type shit.
So if we're the audience of this TV show, which is essentially what we are, we're put in the position of an audience in the 70s or watching this documentary, either of the two, right? And we're wondering like, oh, is this guy a grifter? And I think the movie does a really good job of playing with whatever your bias is. Like, I think if you believe in this type of shit, you would go into this being like, oh, for sure, that's like a psychic. Me, I'm a skeptic, as you guys know. I'm watching this the whole time being like, oh, this guy's faking it. And the movie does a really good job of selling sort of both of those things, I thought. a lot of characters in this movie seem to be inspired by real people. In the 70s, there was like this wave of psychic bullshit and satanic panic. This skeptic guy he invites on the show, I think, is probably heavily inspired by James Randi, who was a famous skeptic who, much like the character in the movie, Carmichael,
offered money for proof.
He offered like millions of dollars for proof of this shit. He also started his career as a magician. So that's like his angle as a skeptic of like, yo, I know how to do this stuff. Like I could recreate the things that these people are doing.
One of my favorite scenes was when he was doing his magic trick and kind of pretending to be like, this isn't supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, wait, is he losing control? Is like the devil coming out? And then he's like, nah, got you, bitch.
So as we're watching this, like the weirdness starts to build and starts to build. So now we got this skeptic on, and we've got this guy talking to the dead who spewed black liquid and then eventually dies off camera. Then we got the next guest, who is a woman who is
Stanford PhD, who's going to bring her
Stanford PhD on
patient on the air.
She is the guardian of a young child who is 13, I believe, or 16. I forget the number.
13.
Named Lily. And Lily was previously held captive by this satanic cult who worshipped a demon by the name of Abraxas. And that cult eventually did some like mass suicide bullshit. The cult believed that anybody who witnesses a sacrificial murder will come under the influence of Abraxas.
When I saw her name instantly, I was Lily is like Lilith. And if you've played any
Lilith
Lilith is like Lucifer's first wife or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is clearly where we're headed.
This demon gets unleashed and there's like weird shit going on. Everybody dies at the end. And then like he's left with like, he gets put into this like weird like mind prison where like he's like living his worst nightmares. And it ultimately ends with him confronted by his wife who's dying on the bed. And you find out that he made a deal and it apparently led to her lung cancer. So that's why I mentioned earlier, like it's explicitly stated that she never smokes in the exposition. It's also explicitly stated that he likes to hang out at Bohemian Grove, which is a real life place that is really popular among conspiracy theories, especially Alex Jones, for politicians and powerful people going to meet and worshiping an owl god named Moloch and doing all this crazy rich people shit. So our character goes there, and apparently that's where he struck up a deal with this demon. I think he signed an ambiguous deal, and it turned out to be his wife. And I think he disappeared for that period of time because he felt guilt that he knew that that's how she died, right?
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, why would she come to him with the nickname that nobody else knew? Well, clearly she wanted him to know that this psychic was not full of shit, because he's only doing it for ratings. As he starts out not really believing this shit. Had she come through with her real name, he would have just been like, oh, this is bullshit because it was in the news. Like, I'm famous. My wife died. I think she was trying to warn him that he was going to be manipulated by the demon.
It's plausible, but it's also certainly plausible that he made a deal with the devil, and that deal included his wife.
He loved her. His fame was her success too.
He absolutely did. And him leaving was the guilt of selling her soul for his fame, and then coming back for his fame. He's reminded that by the devil could be showing up as his wife and teasing him.
Could be
like, yeah, you're doing this shit because you did this. Remember what you did, because the little girl's like, you know what you did. Like it's a tease, like dangling it in front of him. Like, you don't forget what you did. Like, this is your time to shine. We're going to make you famous. You may not like the way we're going to make you famous, but the deal was you're going to be famous, buddy. So strap in.
I lean more towards that one. And I don't think it was a deal. Well, you're probably meaning a deal with Abraxas or whoever.
Abraxas,
the little girl.
Well, it's late night with the devil, so
because the little girl, she's like, we've met before in the woods and all that. So they clearly have made some sort of meeting or something.
Well, because they suggest that the gatherings at Bohemian Grove are to conjure spirits and forces. So you would think that they conjure this demon. He makes a deal with the demon. But again, I don't think he knew what that deal was, or I think it was misled. I don't think he knew his wife was going to die. Like, I don't think the demon was like, I don't think so. I don't think he signed that being like, okay, my wife is going to die. Sure. This brings me to my criticism with the movie is that I don't think it really effectively communicated these things.
Yeah.
I love this movie. I thought it was great. It was super creative. I
Right.
really felt like I was watching a talk show in the 70s. Like, it was great.
Yeah, for sure. It was good.
However, I thought towards the end of the film, they got a little bit crazy with like the visual stuff. And I think they kind of like lost the plot a little bit, just a bit.
Yeah, it definitely went like Ghostbusters mode at the end.
Yeah,
sure.
she's like some
Dude.
cosmic being.
I didn't watch the trailer. I didn't read the synopsis. I didn't
Yeah.
know anything about this. I start watching the movie and I hear the opening, exposition. And I'm like, okay, like I'm going to be watching like, everybody's going to go crazy and the camera's going to fall over and I'm going to see like somebody dragging a leg around and the devil's going to come out and people are going to be murdering each other and it's going to be bloody and disgusting.
That's it.
Right.
And it turns out, no, it's not any of those things. It's just a simple, soul type trick your mind into, is this happening? Is this not happening?
I thought all that was good with the hypnotism and the plays around that.
No, that was all
The
great.
way the guy like tricked everyone with hypnotism. I thought that was really interesting too.
I think this movie also really worked as a comedy. It was very funny.
Oh, it was it was really funny.
And then it was funny in like creepy ways too. Like the little girl Lily, like constantly looking at us, the audience. That was creepy as fuck, but it was funny too. And she would say funny things like, why is he being so silly? And he's like ripping his stomach out and shit. Overall, I thought the movie was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I think the acting from him specifically, this is like one of the best. Honestly, I think
he got to monologue a lot, and it was great.
I think this performance is unbelievable. I might be alone in saying this, and I might get shit on. This is up there with like Cillian Murphy's performance in Oppenheimer. Like it's that level of good. He was great. Some of the other acting
David
was like
nailed
not
it.
so much, but he was the main guy. He's supposed to carry the movie, and he did.
This felt like a
His
here
little
you go,
things.
buddy. Lead role, take it.
Mm-hmm.
Him like sticking to like right after these messages was so fucking funny.
Yeah.
Like
Just-
every
yeah.
time he's
Just a
making
quick
sure to
word
get
from
back
our
to the message.
sponsors. Yeah,
Like even through all the craziness,
Mm-hmm.
we still got to get those sponsors.
It's got a 7.2 on IMDb. I think for like a low budget effort, I would give this movie like a 8.5, 9, to be honest. I'll go 8.5.
I actually agree with the 8.5.
Nice.
Rewatch. First watch, honestly, it was like maybe like a 7.
That's fair.
yeah.
Watched it
I might
again,
have to
enjoyed
rewatch
more.
it then. Yeah, because I think it's a strong 7.
It's earning some good some good money and some good praise. So good. I'm glad you like to see that.
Yeah,
Because like we were talking about in the beginning of the show on originality and sequels, this is like the movie that you want to see.